Hi, and welcome to this episode of Dynamically Speaking. Today, my guest is Jim Barkdoll, President and Chief Commercial Officer of Axiomatics, a leading provider of dynamic authorization solutions. Welcome, Jim, and thank you for your time.
Great to see you again, Kelly. Thank you.
So today we're going to discuss the recent White House meeting with top technology vendors, including Google, Microsoft, IBM, and Apple, where they discussed the need for private technology companies and private companies in general to have more stringent security solutions, including perhaps implementing zero trust. So to that end, Jim, the White House mentioned during the meeting that the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, would be updating their existing guidelines. Currently, how are private sector companies using the existing NIST guidelines?
That's a great question. First of all, I think there's a bit of a misnomer since NIST was introduced back in 2014 that because it's a government entity, that somehow this is only for government organizations. And while they did mandate that all critical infrastructure in 2017 needed to be covered, which covered more than just government entities, anyone that was in the supply chain or critical infrastructure, it's been used and adopted and was meant to be used and adopted by many companies, including small and medium business and certainly enterprises abroad. There's companies like Bank of England or Nippon Telegraph that, just to name a few, that have implemented this.
Okay, excellent. And in terms of new guidelines, what would you like to see added? What are the critical things that you believe that NIST really needs to consider and that technology vendors need to have input on?
First, it's amazing. It's an amazing framework in itself, right? And it's done a great job at bringing attention to a critical area, which was why it was created in the first place. And what it does an amazing job in is providing the framework, the infrastructure, some of the suggestions, the success stories. They do a great job at publishing success stories, people with it. But what I would love to see a lot more adoption of and guidance on is on the policy and the rules themselves. Get a little bit more into the specifics. It's the biggest challenge I see that CISOs have today is when they're looking at whether it's any regulation or compliance issue, what is the best practices? What are their peers doing in policy and rules to actually that are implemented in this infrastructure, in this reference architecture that NIST suggests? And I think that would be a great area to improve upon.
Okay. And interesting you mentioned, best practices and people out there doing some interesting things. The White House meetings typically involve the usual suspects who I mentioned earlier, the Microsofts, Googles, Apples, IBMs of the world. And it certainly offered what they're going to be doing to improve security practices and meet some of the guidelines that we've discussed. But are there other vendors or other classes of vendor that you believe should be involved in these meetings moving forward to provide a fuller view of what's going on right now in terms of security?
Yeah, again, spot on, and I think really appropriate to look at who is helping frame the guidance and the leadership that NIST is taking, at least from the people that the White House invited. Amazing companies, fantastic enterprises, amazing holistic solutions, but a lot of what their attention goes to is an end-to-end solution in a lot of places, and no enterprise is made up singularly of any one of those technologies. They certainly all play a part in it. So what I would love to see when they start to look at other people or people that should be given guidance in this, and similarly along the policy recommendation guidelines, are the people that are the experts at implementing this. So there's companies, especially in the US, like Optiv, like Nova Coast, like Set Solutions, like GuidePoint, that are in the trenches every day, giving best practices around security and working with all those technologies. And of course, many of the other hundreds of cybersecurity solutions that are out there besides those entities.
Okay, excellent. And though this is a very certainly US-centric conversation that was had, we're in a world where everyone works from everywhere at all hours. So what are the takeaways for global companies from this meeting and from potentially significant additions to NIST guidelines?
Yeah, again, as we talked a little bit about at the beginning, this is not strictly viewed as if you're doing business with the US government. It's certainly helpful. There's mandates now for certain entities that you're doing work with and to be NIST compliant. So I think that is something companies should certainly look at. But even if you're not doing anything with US or even US companies, the NIST is a great guideline to at least a reference architecture, a starting point to go in and expand your your cybersecurity presence. And certainly if you're looking to implement zero trust and or judge yourselves by zero trust, NIST is a great framework to start and or judge yourself against.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate your time. For anyone interested in learning more about dynamic authorization or axiomatics, please visit our website at www.axiomatics.com or download our latest resources, 5 great ways to get started with dynamic authorization. Thank you very much.
Thank you.